Tonight, let us quietly step beneath the stars and journey back to a time when the night sky was humanity's greatest window into the universe. Long before telescopes, satellites, observatories, and modern astronomy transformed our understanding of space, ancient people spent countless generations looking upward into the darkness. Every clear night revealed a vast celestial world filled with stars, planets, comets, constellations, and mysterious lights moving slowly across the heavens. For most of human history, the night sky was not hidden by city lights. It stretched from horizon to horizon with astonishing clarity. The stars guided travelers across deserts and oceans. They marked the passing of seasons. They shaped calendars, myths, religions, and entire civilizations. Above all, they inspired wonder. Tonight, we will take a gentle tour through the world of ancient astronomy. Together, we will wander beneath the skies of ancient Egypt, Mesopotamia, Greece, China, and the early Americas. We will visit desert observatories, temple rooftops, stone monuments aligned with the stars, and quiet landscapes where people carefully watched the heavens night after night beneath skies far darker than most of us will ever experience. This is not a story about complex mathematics or modern science. It is a story about curiosity. Researchers studying the history of astronomy often explain that humanity's relationship with the stars may be one of the oldest intellectual traditions in existence. Long before writing systems became widespread, people were already observing celestial patterns, recognizing seasonal changes, and tracking the movements of the moon, planets, and stars. The sky became humanity's first clock, its first calendar, its first great mystery. Tonight, we will experience that mystery together. Imagine standing quietly beneath a clear night sky thousands of years ago. No streetlights glow beyond the horizon. No airplanes cross the darkness above. No cities illuminate the atmosphere. Only stars. Thousands upon thousands of stars stretching across the heavens. The pale glow of the Milky Way arches overhead like a river of light moving through the darkness. Constellations slowly rise above distant mountains, while planets shine brightly among the fixed stars. Somewhere nearby, a small fire crackles softly, while observers quietly watch the heavens and record what they see, night after night. Season after season, generation after generation. Before we begin, take a moment to like the video and subscribe to the channel if you enjoy peaceful, long-form nighttime documentaries and atmospheric sleep journeys like this one. And in the comments, tell us what nighttime atmosphere feels most relaxing to you. Ocean waves, forests, rainstorms, candlelight, ancient temples, desert skies, or starlit landscapes beneath the Milky Way. Now settle in comfortably as the stars emerge above the horizon and we begin our gentle journey through the fascinating world of ancient astronomy. Act 1. The first people who watched the sky. Long before the first cities rose beside rivers, long before kings ruled kingdoms, and long before written history began recording human events, people were already looking upward into the night sky with curiosity and wonder. Across grasslands, forests, deserts, mountains, and coastlines, early human communities spent countless nights beneath skies so dark and clear that the heavens must have appeared almost overwhelming in their beauty. The Milky Way stretched from horizon to horizon like a luminous river flowing through the darkness, while thousands upon thousands of stars filled every corner of the sky above. Researchers studying the origins of astronomy often explain that the night sky may have been one of humanity's earliest classrooms. Before books existed, before formal schools were established, and before scientific instruments transformed observation, people learned by watching the world around them. They observed the movement of animals, the changing seasons, the growth of plants, the behavior of rivers, and above all, the predictable motions unfolding across the heavens night after night. The stars offered something extraordinary: consistency. Unlike weather, which could change unexpectedly, or animals which moved unpredictably through the landscape, the sky followed patterns. Certain stars appeared during particular seasons. The moon changed shape in a reliable cycle. Constellations rose and set at predictable times throughout the year. Even without mathematics or written records, careful observers could begin recognizing these repeating celestial rhythms. Imagine standing quietly beside a small campfire thousands of years ago. The night air is cool and still, while distant mountains rest beneath the darkness. Around you, the sounds of the natural world gradually fade as evening deepens. Above, the stars emerge one by one until the entire sky becomes filled with light. There are no electric lights, no illuminated roads, and no glowing cities beyond the horizon. The heavens appear vast beyond comprehension. Researchers increasingly believe that early humans may have developed an intimate familiarity with the night sky because it remained a constant presence throughout their lives. Every journey, every hunting expedition, every seasonal migration, and every generation unfolded beneath the same celestial patterns. Children grew up watching the same stars their grandparents had observed decades earlier. Knowledge of the heavens could be passed from one generation to the next through stories, traditions, and careful observation. Over time, people began recognizing that the sky could help them understand the passage of time itself. Certain constellations appeared during planting seasons. Others emerged during periods of migration or harvest. The moon provided a visible rhythm for measuring shorter cycles, while the changing position of stars helped track the progression of entire years. Without realizing it, humanity was beginning the long journey toward astronomy. Researchers studying ancient cultures often explain that astronomy did not begin as a separate scientific discipline. Instead, it emerged naturally from daily life. The sky influenced survival, navigation, agriculture, religion, and storytelling. Understanding celestial patterns was not merely interesting, it could be deeply practical. Knowing when seasons would change could determine the success of crops. Recognizing stars could help travelers navigate across unfamiliar landscapes. Observing the moon could help communities organize their activities and ceremonies. Even today, traces of this ancient relationship remain within us. Many people still feel a profound sense of calm when looking at a clear night sky. Modern neuroscience suggests that experiences of awe may help quiet habitual patterns of thought while encouraging a broader perspective beyond everyday concerns. Standing beneath thousands of stars can create a feeling of connection to something vast, timeless, and far larger than ourselves. Perhaps ancient observers experienced something similar. Night after night, generation after generation, they watched the heavens slowly turn above them. They observed bright planets wandering among the stars. They noticed meteor showers streaking across the darkness. They witnessed eclipses, comets, and celestial events that must have inspired both wonder and mystery. Although they could not yet explain these phenomena scientifically, they understood something important. The sky was filled with patterns waiting to be discovered. And so, beneath some of the darkest skies humanity would ever know, the first chapter of astronomy quietly began, not inside observatories or universities, but beside campfires, beneath mountains, across deserts, and under the endless canopy of stars that stretched above the ancient world. Act 2. The Skies of Ancient Mesopotamia. Among the earliest civilizations to study the heavens with remarkable dedication were the people of ancient Mesopotamia, whose cities flourished between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers thousands of years ago. Long before the construction of famous classical observatories and centuries before many of the world's greatest scientific achievements, Mesopotamian observers were already spending countless nights watching the movements of stars, planets, and the moon beneath some of the clearest skies of the ancient world. Researchers studying the history of astronomy often explain that Mesopotamia occupies a special place in humanity's relationship with the heavens because many of the earliest systematic celestial records originated there. While earlier cultures undoubtedly observed the sky, Mesopotamian civilizations began recording observations with extraordinary consistency, transforming generations of accumulated knowledge into one of the first organized traditions of astronomical study. Imagine standing quietly atop a great ziggurat during a clear night more than 3,000 years ago. Below, the city rests beneath the darkness, while oil lamps glow faintly along distant streets. Above, the heavens stretch endlessly across the sky. The Milky Way shines brilliantly overhead, while bright planets move among the stars. The air remains still, and the night seems almost infinite. Night after night, observers climbed these elevated structures to watch the sky. Their goal was not merely curiosity. In Mesopotamian society, celestial observation was deeply connected to understanding time, seasons, agriculture, governance, and religion. The heavens were viewed as an orderly realm, whose movements reflected patterns that could be studied and interpreted. As a result, generations of observers carefully documented eclipses, planetary motions, lunar cycles, and the appearance of particular stars throughout the year. Researchers increasingly believe that one reason Mesopotamian astronomy became so sophisticated was the remarkable continuity of observation that developed across centuries. Knowledge was preserved, copied, expanded, and transmitted from one generation to the next. Rather than relying solely on memory, observers created records that allowed future astronomers to compare new observations with those made decades or even centuries earlier. This gradual accumulation of information revealed something profound. The heavens followed patterns. Certain planets appeared in predictable locations. Lunar eclipses occurred according to recognizable cycles. Specific constellations rose during particular seasons. Over long periods of observation, celestial events that once seemed mysterious began revealing underlying regularities. Imagine the quiet patience required for such work. There are no telescopes, no computers, no advanced instruments, only careful eyes, simple measuring methods, clay tablets, and an extraordinary commitment to observation. Year after year, observers return beneath the same sky, recording what they see while the stars continue their silent journeys across the darkness above. Researchers studying ancient astronomy often note that many concepts still familiar today have roots in Mesopotamian traditions. The division of circles into degrees, the use of certain astronomical calculations, and aspects of celestial mapping all emerged from intellectual foundations established in this region. Although the scientific understanding of the universe would continue evolving for thousands of years, Mesopotamian astronomers helped establish an important principle that remains central to science itself. Careful observation can reveal hidden patterns within nature. Even the emotional atmosphere of these ancient observations feels deeply peaceful when imagined today. Far from modern cities and artificial illumination, observers stood beneath extraordinarily dark skies where the stars appeared with astonishing clarity. The moon cast soft light across river valleys while distant desert winds moved quietly through the night. Above them, planets wandered slowly among the constellations, and the great river of the Milky Way stretched across the heavens from one horizon to the other. Night after night, generation after generation, the people of Mesopotamia continued watching. And through their patience, humanity took some of its earliest steps toward understanding the vast celestial world that surrounded it. As centuries passed, the astronomers of Mesopotamia continued refining their observations with remarkable patience. What had begun as simple sky watching gradually evolved into one of the most sophisticated traditions of astronomical record-keeping in the ancient world. Generation after generation, observers compared the movements of celestial bodies, searched for recurring patterns, and developed increasingly detailed methods for tracking the heavens. Researchers studying ancient scientific history often explain that one of the greatest achievements of Mesopotamian astronomy was the recognition that celestial events followed predictable cycles. Rather than viewing every eclipse, planetary appearance, or lunar event as an isolated occurrence, observers began identifying long-term regularities hidden within the apparent complexity of the sky. Imagine standing once more atop a great ziggurat during a clear spring night. The city below rests quietly beneath the darkness, while distant oil lamps flicker beside temples, markets, and homes. Above, the moon hangs low over the horizon, while Jupiter shines brightly among the stars. The air remains calm. Somewhere beyond the city walls, the river flows silently through the valley. The heavens seem almost motionless at first glance, yet the careful observer knows that every star, every planet, and every phase of the moon forms part of a vast celestial dance unfolding over months, years, and centuries. Night after night, observations continue. Researchers increasingly believe that the long continuity of Mesopotamian civilization played an important role in allowing such discoveries to emerge. Many celestial cycles unfold too slowly to be fully understood within a single lifetime. But when records are preserved across generations, observers can begin recognizing patterns that would otherwise remain hidden. One of the most fascinating examples involved eclipses. To ancient observers, eclipses must have appeared both beautiful and mysterious. A bright moon suddenly darkened. The sun itself occasionally disappeared during the day. Yet through centuries of observation, Mesopotamian astronomers began identifying repeating intervals associated with these events. Although they did not possess modern explanations involving orbital mechanics, they recognized that eclipses were not random. They followed patterns that could be studied and anticipated. This realization represented an extraordinary intellectual achievement. Researchers often note that the transition from viewing natural events as unpredictable occurrences to recognizing them as part of larger systems of order marks one of the most significant developments in the history of science. Mesopotamian astronomers were among the first people to systematically pursue this understanding through long-term observation and record-keeping. The planets also attracted considerable attention. Unlike the fixed stars, certain bright objects moved slowly across the sky over weeks and months. These wandering lights behaved differently from the constellations surrounding them. Ancient observers carefully tracked their positions, recording their movements with astonishing dedication. Although these celestial bodies would later become central to Greek, Islamic, and modern astronomy, some of the earliest detailed observations originated beneath the skies of Mesopotamia. Even today, it is difficult not to admire the patience required for such work. There were no observatories equipped with modern instruments, no digital images, no advanced calculations performed by machines. Only generations of observers standing beneath the stars, comparing observations, preserving records, and gradually uncovering the hidden rhythms of the heavens. The emotional atmosphere surrounding these ancient observations feels remarkably peaceful when imagined today. The night sky remains perfectly clear above the desert plains. The Milky Way glows like a pale river stretching across the darkness. Constellations slowly rise above the horizon while planets shine among them. Cool air drifts across the rooftops of the city while observers quietly study the heavens from elevated terraces overlooking the sleeping landscape below. Hour after hour, the stars continue their silent movements. Season after season, the sky changes. Year after year, patterns reveal themselves. And through this extraordinary combination of patience, curiosity, and careful observation, the people of Mesopotamia helped lay some of the earliest foundations for humanity's understanding of the universe above. As the centuries continued passing across the fertile river valleys of Mesopotamia, astronomical knowledge grew steadily through an extraordinary partnership between patience and memory. Each generation inherited observations from those who had come before, adding new measurements, correcting old records, and expanding humanity's understanding of the heavens one clear night at a time. The sky itself remained unchanged in its beauty, yet with every passing century, it became a little less mysterious to those who watched it carefully. Researchers studying the history of astronomy often explain that one of the most remarkable aspects of Mesopotamian sky watching was not simply the accuracy of individual observations, but the willingness to observe consistently over incredibly long periods of time. Modern science often advances through sophisticated technology, but ancient astronomy advanced through persistence. The same stars were observed year after year. The same planets were tracked through their slow journeys across the heavens. The same lunar cycles were recorded repeatedly until patterns that once seemed invisible gradually emerged from the accumulated observations. Imagine a quiet summer night in ancient Babylon. The heat of the day has finally faded, while cool air drifts gently across the rooftops of the city. Far below, most of the population sleeps peacefully within homes illuminated only by faint oil lamps. Above, however, the sky remains brilliantly alive. The Milky Way stretches across the darkness like a luminous pathway. Saturn glows softly among the stars, while the moon casts pale silver light across temple walls and distant riverbanks. An observer stands silently beneath this celestial panorama, carefully recording the positions of heavenly bodies whose movements unfold far too slowly to notice in a single evening, but reveal themselves over months and years. Researchers increasingly believe that this long-term perspective transformed the way ancient astronomers viewed the universe. Rather than focusing only on individual celestial events, they began seeing the heavens as an interconnected system governed by order and repetition. The sky was no longer simply a collection of beautiful lights scattered across the darkness. It became a vast celestial clock whose motions could be studied, compared, and anticipated. This realization carried profound consequences. For the first time in human history, people were beginning to understand that nature might operate according to discoverable principles rather than unpredictable whims. Although their explanations differed greatly from modern scientific understanding, the method itself was revolutionary. Observe carefully, record consistently, compare observations across time, search for patterns. These principles remain central to scientific inquiry even today. The emotional atmosphere surrounding such discoveries feels wonderfully peaceful when imagined beneath the ancient sky. There are no engines humming in the distance, no electric lights washing out the stars, no glowing screens competing for attention. The observer's world consists of darkness, silence, cool air, and the magnificent celestial display unfolding overhead. Every constellation appears with extraordinary clarity. Every bright planet shines distinctly among the fixed stars. Every movement across the heavens carries significance because it forms part of a larger pattern waiting to be understood. Researchers often note that astronomy may have offered ancient observers something more than practical knowledge. It may also have provided a sense of connection to a universe that appeared orderly and comprehensible despite its vastness. Standing beneath the stars, people could witness cycles that repeated year after year with remarkable reliability. Seasons changed. Constellations returned. Planets followed recognizable paths. The heavens became a source of stability in a world often shaped by uncertainty. Night after night, observers continued their work beneath the Mesopotamian sky. The rivers flowed quietly through the darkness, while desert winds moved softly across distant plains. Above, the stars continued their ancient journeys, unaware that human beings were slowly learning to understand their rhythms. Through patience measured not in days but in generations, Mesopotamian astronomers helped establish one of humanity's most enduring traditions: the search for knowledge through careful observation of the natural world. And beneath those magnificent ancient skies, illuminated by thousands of stars stretching from horizon to horizon, the foundations of astronomy continued growing one quiet night at a time. As Mesopotamian astronomy continued developing across the centuries, its greatest achievement may not have been any single discovery, calculation, or celestial record. Instead, its lasting contribution was the gradual realization that the heavens followed patterns that could be observed, studied, and understood. This idea seems obvious today, but thousands of years ago, it represented a profound shift in how people viewed the universe around them. Researchers studying the history of science often explain that ancient Mesopotamian observers helped establish one of humanity's most important intellectual traditions: the belief that nature contains order. Night after night, they watched the stars, tracked the moon, followed the wandering planets, and recorded eclipses. Over time, they discovered that the sky was not random. Beneath its beauty lay a structure that revealed itself through patience and careful observation. Imagine standing atop a Babylonian ziggurat during the final hours before dawn. The city below rests quietly beneath the darkness, while the river reflects faint starlight beyond the walls. Above, the heavens remain brilliantly clear. Constellations slowly drift westward, while a bright planet shines near the horizon. The air is cool and still, and the sky appears almost eternal in its calmness. For generations, observers stood beneath scenes like this. They watched the same constellations return each year. They observed the moon repeating its familiar cycle. They noticed planets tracing slow paths among the stars. Although they could not yet understand gravity, orbital mechanics, or the true structure of the solar system, they recognized something equally important. The universe was intelligible. Researchers often note that this perspective helped shape the future of astronomy itself. Knowledge developed in Mesopotamia would later influence neighboring civilizations, eventually contributing to traditions of astronomical study in Greece, the Islamic world, and beyond. The observations preserved on clay tablets became part of a much larger story that would continue unfolding for thousands of years. The emotional atmosphere surrounding these ancient observations remains deeply peaceful when imagined today. Beneath the dark sky, far from modern cities and artificial light, the stars shine with extraordinary clarity. The Milky Way stretches overhead, while cool desert air moves quietly across the landscape. The observer stands in silence, surrounded by darkness, yet connected to something vast and timeless above. And so, beneath the skies of ancient Mesopotamia, humanity took some of its earliest steps toward understanding the universe. Through patience, curiosity, and generations of careful observation, people began uncovering the hidden rhythms of the heavens. The stars continued their silent journeys across the night, and below them, one of the world's first great astronomical traditions quietly flourished beside the rivers of the ancient world. Act 3. Under the Stars of Ancient Egypt. While the astronomers of Mesopotamia carefully recorded celestial patterns beside the great river valleys of the Near East, another remarkable tradition of sky watching was developing along the banks of the Nile. Ancient Egypt, with its vast deserts, clear skies, and deep connection to seasonal cycles, became one of the most fascinating astronomical cultures of the ancient world. For thousands of years, Egyptian priests, scholars, architects, and observers watched the heavens with extraordinary attention, using the sky to measure time, organize religious ceremonies, and understand the rhythms of life along the river that sustained their civilization. Researchers studying ancient astronomy often explain that Egypt's relationship with the heavens was shaped by a unique geographical reality. The Nile River governed nearly every aspect of life. Its annual flooding brought fertile soil that allowed agriculture to flourish across an otherwise harsh desert landscape. Predicting the timing of these floods became immensely important, and over time Egyptian observers discovered that the stars themselves could provide valuable clues about the changing seasons. Imagine standing quietly beside the Nile more than 4,000 years ago. The river moves gently through the darkness, while palm trees sway softly in the night breeze. Far beyond the fertile riverbanks, the desert stretches toward the horizon beneath a sky so clear that thousands of stars appear visible at once. There are no city lights obscuring the heavens. The Milky Way shines brilliantly overhead, while bright constellations slowly rise above the eastern horizon. Among these stars, one held special significance. Researchers often point to Sirius, the brightest star visible in the night sky, as one of the most important celestial objects in Egyptian astronomy. Each year, after a period of absence, Sirius would reappear just before sunrise in an event known as its heliacal rising. This appearance occurred close to the annual flooding of the Nile, creating a powerful connection between the heavens and life on Earth. Over generations, Egyptian observers learned to associate the return of Sirius with the beginning of a new seasonal cycle. This relationship between astronomy and agriculture became one of the foundations of Egyptian timekeeping. By observing celestial events, people could anticipate important changes in the natural world. The sky became not only a source of wonder, but also a practical guide for daily life. Researchers increasingly believe that Egyptian astronomy developed through a combination of careful observation and religious symbolism. The heavens were viewed as a sacred realm populated by divine forces, yet this spiritual perspective did not prevent systematic observation. On the contrary, it often encouraged it. Priests responsible for maintaining religious calendars needed accurate knowledge of celestial cycles, leading to generations of careful sky watching beneath the clear Egyptian night. The emotional atmosphere surrounding these observations feels remarkably peaceful when imagined today. The desert air cools after sunset, while the sounds of daytime activity gradually fade away. Temples stand quietly beneath the stars. The Nile reflects moonlight across its calm surface. Above, the heavens appear vast and luminous, stretching endlessly beyond the horizon. Night after night, observers watch the same celestial patterns unfold. Constellations rose and set. The moon changed its appearance. Bright planets wandered among the stars. The familiar rhythm of the heavens continued above the sleeping world below. And beneath those magnificent desert skies, illuminated by some of the clearest starlight on Earth, the people of ancient Egypt developed one of humanity's most enduring relationships with the cosmos, finding both practical guidance and profound inspiration in the endless beauty of the night sky. As centuries passed along the Nile, Egyptian astronomers continued refining their understanding of the heavens through careful observation and remarkable patience. The sky became woven into nearly every aspect of life, from agriculture and architecture to religion and timekeeping. While many ancient civilizations watched the stars, Egypt developed a particularly close relationship with celestial cycles because the regular flooding of the Nile linked earthly survival to the accurate measurement of time. Researchers studying ancient astronomy often explain that one of Egypt's greatest achievements was the development of a calendar closely connected to astronomical observation. By carefully tracking the appearance of Sirius and other celestial events, Egyptian observers were able to create systems that helped organize agricultural activities, religious festivals, and administrative responsibilities throughout the year. In many ways, the stars became a natural clock governing the rhythm of civilization itself. Imagine standing atop a temple roof during a warm Egyptian night. The day's heat has faded, leaving cool desert air drifting quietly across the stone structures below. The Nile glimmers faintly in the darkness, while distant settlements rest peacefully along its banks. Above, the heavens shine with extraordinary clarity. Thousands of stars fill the sky, while familiar constellations move slowly across the celestial dome. The entire universe appears calm, orderly, and timeless. Researchers increasingly believe that Egyptian temple architecture may have reflected this deep astronomical awareness. Certain temples and monuments appear aligned with specific celestial events, including solstices, equinoxes, and the rising of important stars. Although modern scholars continue studying many of these alignments, there is little doubt that the movements of the heavens influenced how some of Egypt's most impressive structures were designed and positioned within the landscape. The relationship between architecture and astronomy feels particularly fascinating when imagined beneath the ancient sky. Massive stone temples stand silently beneath the stars, while moonlight illuminates columns, courtyards, and sacred pathways. Priests and observers watch the heavens from elevated terraces, carefully noting celestial events that connect the earthly world to the vast cosmos above. Researchers often note that ancient Egyptian astronomy was not driven solely by practical concerns. The stars also carried deep symbolic meaning. Many celestial objects were associated with stories, deities, and spiritual beliefs that helped people understand their place within the universe. The heavens were viewed not simply as a collection of distant lights, but as a living, meaningful realm whose cycles reflected the order of creation itself. Even today, there is something deeply calming about imagining those ancient nights beside the Nile. The desert remains silent beneath the stars, while gentle river currents move through the darkness. Palm trees sway softly in the cool evening air. Above, constellations travel across the sky exactly as they did thousands of years ago, unchanged by the passage of civilizations, empires, and generations. Night after night, observers continued their work beneath these magnificent heavens. They watched Sirius return each year. They followed the changing phases of the moon. They observed the steady procession of stars across the seasons. Through patience and careful attention, they transformed the night sky into one of the most important foundations of Egyptian life. And beneath those vast desert skies, where the Nile flowed quietly through the darkness and the stars shone with breathtaking clarity, ancient Egypt continued building one of the world's most remarkable astronomical traditions, guided by the timeless rhythms unfolding above. As Egyptian civilization continued flourishing across the centuries, its relationship with the night sky became increasingly sophisticated. What began as careful observation of seasonal celestial events gradually evolved into a rich tradition that combined astronomy, architecture, religion, and the measurement of time. Generation after generation, observers stood beneath the same desert skies, watching the heavens with extraordinary consistency while preserving knowledge that would endure for thousands of years. Researchers studying the history of astronomy often explain that the skies above ancient Egypt offered ideal conditions for observation. Much of the region experienced clear weather throughout the year, while the surrounding deserts provided dark horizons, free from many of the obstacles that can interfere with viewing celestial objects. Night after night, the stars appeared with remarkable brilliance above the Nile Valley, creating an environment where even subtle astronomical patterns could be noticed by patient observers. Imagine a calm night near one of Egypt's great temple complexes. The day's activity has long since faded, and the stone structures rest quietly beneath the darkness. The desert stretches endlessly beyond the cultivated lands, while the Nile reflects faint moonlight through the valley. Above, countless stars fill the heavens. The Milky Way arches across the sky like a luminous pathway, while bright planets shine among the constellations. The atmosphere is peaceful, still, and filled with a sense of timeless wonder. Researchers increasingly believe that Egyptian observers developed impressive methods for tracking the passage of nighttime hours using the stars themselves. Certain groups of stars, often referred to by modern scholars as deacons, were observed rising at different times throughout the night during various seasons of the year. By carefully monitoring these celestial patterns, observers could estimate time during darkness long before mechanical clocks existed. This achievement reveals something fascinating about the ancient world. For many people today, time is measured through devices carried in pockets or displayed on glowing screens. But for much of human history, the sky served as a clock. The movement of the sun governed the day. The phases of the moon tracked longer cycles. The rising and setting of stars helped organize nights and seasons. The heavens provided a natural framework through which people understood the passage of time itself. The emotional atmosphere surrounding these ancient observations feels especially peaceful when imagined beneath the Egyptian night. There are no artificial lights competing with the stars. No engines disturb the silence. Only the gentle sounds of the river, the cool desert air, and the vast celestial panorama unfolding overhead. Every constellation appears sharp and brilliant. Every bright star seems close enough to touch. The universe feels immense, yet strangely comforting in its order and predictability. Researchers often note that one of the most remarkable aspects of ancient astronomy is the patience it required. Celestial patterns reveal themselves slowly. A single night may offer beauty, but true understanding emerges through years of observation. Egyptian astronomers accepted this rhythm. They watched the heavens season after season, allowing knowledge to accumulate gradually across generations. Their work reminds us that some of the most important discoveries in human history were not made through sudden breakthroughs, but through quiet attention sustained over long periods of time. And so, beneath the brilliant skies of ancient Egypt, the stars continued their endless journeys across the heavens. The Nile flowed silently through the darkness below, while temples stood watch beneath the moonlight. Night after night, observers looked upward, measuring time, studying celestial patterns, and deepening humanity's understanding of the universe, one peaceful observation at a time. As historians and researchers continued studying the astronomical traditions of ancient Egypt, many came to appreciate that the civilization's greatest achievement was not merely its ability to observe the heavens, but its ability to integrate celestial knowledge into daily life. The stars were not distant curiosities separated from ordinary existence. They influenced calendars, agriculture, architecture, religious ceremonies, and the broader understanding of humanity's place within the cosmos. The sky was woven into the fabric of civilization itself. Researchers studying the history of science often explain that ancient Egyptian astronomy demonstrated something profoundly important. Careful observation of nature can reveal order hidden within apparent complexity. The annual return of Sirius, the phases of the moon, the movement of planets, and the changing positions of stars all became part of a larger celestial framework that helped people understand the passage of time and the rhythms of the natural world. Imagine standing beside the Nile during the final hours before dawn. The desert remains silent beneath the darkness, while a cool breeze drifts across the water. Temple walls glow faintly beneath the stars, and distant palm trees form dark silhouettes against the horizon. Above, the heavens continue their slow, graceful movement. Constellations drift westward, while the brightest stars shine brilliantly against the deep black sky. Everything feels calm, ordered, and timeless. For generations, Egyptian observers experienced scenes like this. They watched familiar stars return year after year. They observed the changing appearance of the moon. They measured the seasons through celestial events unfolding above the horizon. Through patient observation, they developed a relationship with the heavens that lasted for thousands of years and influenced one of the most enduring civilizations in human history. Researchers often note that astronomy provided ancient societies with something more than practical knowledge. It also encouraged reflection. Looking upward into the night sky naturally invites questions about time, existence, and the structure of the universe itself. Although Egyptian explanations differed from those of modern science, the sense of wonder that inspired those questions remains deeply familiar even today. The emotional atmosphere surrounding these ancient observations feels remarkably peaceful when imagined beneath the desert stars. There are no artificial lights washing out the heavens, no distractions competing for attention, only silence, cool air, and a magnificent celestial panorama stretching endlessly from horizon to horizon. The Milky Way shines overhead while the Nile flows quietly through the darkness below. The universe appears vast beyond comprehension, yet its rhythms feel steady and reassuring. Perhaps that is one reason astronomy has fascinated human beings for so long. The stars remind us that we are part of something much larger than ourselves. They connect generations, separated by thousands of years. The same constellations observed by Egyptian priests still rise above the horizon today. The same moon continues its familiar cycle. The same celestial patterns continue unfolding across the heavens exactly as they did when ancient observers first began studying them beside the Nile. And so, beneath the magnificent skies of ancient Egypt, one of humanity's great astronomical traditions quietly flourished. Through patience, curiosity, and centuries of observation, Egyptian astronomers deepened humanity's relationship with the cosmos, while reminding future generations that the night sky is not merely something to look at, but something capable of inspiring wonder, reflection, and a lasting sense of connection to the universe itself. ACT 4. The Philosophers of Ancient Greece and the Ordered Cosmos. While the astronomers of Mesopotamia carefully recorded celestial events and the observers of Egypt connected the heavens to the rhythms of the Nile, another remarkable approach to understanding the sky began emerging along the shores of the Mediterranean. In ancient Greece, astronomy gradually became intertwined with philosophy, mathematics, and the search for universal principles capable of explaining the structure of the cosmos itself. For the first time, many thinkers were not only asking what happened in the heavens, but why. Researchers studying the history of astronomy often explain that the Greeks inherited knowledge from earlier civilizations while adding something uniquely influential of their own. They sought explanations. Rather than simply recording celestial patterns, they attempted to understand the underlying mechanisms responsible for those patterns. This shift would profoundly influence the future development of science. Imagine standing on a quiet hillside overlooking the Aegean Sea during a clear summer night more than 2,000 years ago. Below, small villages rest peacefully beside the coastline while gentle waves move through the darkness. Above, the stars shine with extraordinary brilliance. The Milky Way stretches across the heavens while planets glow among the constellations. The air remains calm, and the sky appears so vast that it seems to extend beyond all imagination. For many Greek thinkers, scenes like this inspired profound questions. Why do the stars move? Why does the moon change shape? Why do planets wander among the fixed constellations? What is the structure of the universe? Researchers often note that one of the most important contributions of Greek astronomy was the belief that the cosmos operated according to principles that could be understood through observation and reason. Although many of their conclusions would later be revised, their willingness to seek natural explanations represented an important step in humanity's intellectual journey. Over time, philosophers and astronomers began proposing increasingly sophisticated models of the heavens. Some imagined celestial spheres carrying the stars across the sky. Others attempted to explain planetary motion through geometric systems. Mathematics gradually became a tool for understanding celestial phenomena, creating a powerful connection between observation and abstract reasoning. The emotional atmosphere surrounding these early investigations feels wonderfully peaceful when imagined today. There are no observatories filled with advanced instruments, no computers processing enormous data sets. Instead, there are quiet conversations beneath starlit skies, thoughtful observers studying celestial patterns, and philosophers contemplating the nature of existence while the constellations drift slowly overhead. Researchers increasingly believe that this combination of curiosity and contemplation helped shape the Greek approach to astronomy. The heavens were not merely useful for measuring seasons or organizing calendars. They also became a source of intellectual wonder. Looking upward encouraged reflection on humanity's place within a universe that appeared vast, orderly, and deeply mysterious. Night after night, observers continued watching the stars rise and set above the Mediterranean world. The moon followed its familiar cycle. Bright planets wandered among the constellations. The heavens revealed their patterns slowly, inviting patient minds to explore questions that would echo across centuries. And beneath those beautiful Mediterranean skies, illuminated by thousands of stars stretching above mountains, islands, and coastlines, ancient Greece began developing a vision of the cosmos that would influence astronomy for generations to come. As Greek astronomy continued developing across the centuries, observers became increasingly fascinated by the remarkable regularity visible throughout the heavens. Every clear night offered evidence that the sky followed patterns. The stars rose and set with extraordinary consistency. The moon repeated its familiar cycle of phases. The sun traced a predictable path through the seasons. Even the wandering planets, although more complex in their movements, appeared to follow rules that careful observation might eventually reveal. To many Greek thinkers, this order suggested that the universe itself operated according to principles that could be discovered through reason and study. Researchers studying the history of science often explain that one of the most influential ideas to emerge from ancient Greece was the concept of the cosmos as an ordered system rather than a collection of unrelated events. The very word cosmos carried connotations of harmony, arrangement, and structure. Looking upward into the night sky, Greek philosophers saw not chaos, but organization. The heavens appeared elegant, predictable, and governed by patterns that invited investigation. Imagine a peaceful evening on a hillside overlooking the Mediterranean. The warmth of the day has slowly faded, while a gentle breeze moves through olive trees beneath the stars. Far below, small settlements rest quietly beside the coastline, while fishing boats drift across dark waters illuminated by moonlight. Above, the sky reveals an astonishing display of celestial beauty. The Milky Way arches overhead, while bright planets shine among the constellations. appearing almost suspended within the darkness. For many observers, scenes like this inspired a profound sense of wonder. Researchers increasingly believe that astronomy and philosophy became closely connected in ancient Greece because both disciplines were driven by the same fundamental desire: understanding. Observers were not satisfied merely knowing that celestial bodies moved. They wanted to understand why those movements occurred. They sought explanations capable of connecting individual observations into larger systems of knowledge. Over time, Greek thinkers developed increasingly elaborate models to describe the structure of the universe. Some imagined Earth resting at the center of a series of celestial spheres, carrying the moon, planets, and stars across the heavens. Others explored geometric relationships that might explain observed motions, although many of these models would eventually be replaced by more accurate scientific theories. They represented an important attempt to describe the universe through logical reasoning rather than tradition alone. The emotional atmosphere surrounding these intellectual pursuits feels remarkably peaceful when imagined today. There are no laboratories filled with advanced instruments, no massive observatories scanning distant galaxies. Instead, there are quiet conversations beneath starlit skies, scholars debating ideas within candlelit courtyards, and observers patiently watching the heavens while searching for patterns hidden within celestial motion. Researchers often note that ancient astronomy required a particular kind of patience that modern life rarely encourages. Understanding the heavens meant observing changes that unfolded slowly over months, years, and sometimes generations. The stars revealed their secrets gradually. Knowledge accumulated one observation at a time. The process itself encouraged reflection, attentiveness, and a deep appreciation for the rhythms of the natural world. Night after night, the same celestial panorama continued unfolding above the Mediterranean world. Constellations rose from the eastern horizon and drifted westward across the sky. The moon changed shape with quiet regularity. Bright planets wandered among the fixed stars. Beneath this magnificent celestial display, Greek astronomers and philosophers continued their search for understanding, convinced that the universe possessed an underlying order, waiting patiently to be discovered by those willing to observe carefully and think deeply beneath the stars. As Greek thinkers continued exploring the nature of the cosmos, astronomy gradually became one of the most intellectually ambitious pursuits of the ancient world. Observing the heavens was no longer limited to tracking seasons or measuring time. It had become part of a larger effort to understand the structure of reality itself. The stars, planets, and moon were no longer viewed merely as lights moving across the sky, but as clues to a deeper order governing the universe. Researchers studying the history of astronomy often explain that this period marked a significant transformation in humanity's relationship with the heavens. Earlier civilizations had achieved extraordinary success through observation and record-keeping, but many Greek astronomers sought something beyond description. They wanted models capable of explaining celestial motion. They wanted to understand why the heavens behaved as they did, and whether mathematical principles could reveal hidden structures within the cosmos. Imagine a clear autumn night somewhere in the ancient Greek world. The sea lies calm beneath the darkness, while distant mountains form quiet silhouettes against the horizon. Above, the sky appears almost impossibly vast. Thousands of stars fill the heavens, while the Milky Way stretches overhead like a luminous bridge connecting one end of the world to the other. A bright planet shines near the horizon, standing apart from the surrounding constellations. An observer watches carefully, knowing that this wandering light has followed a path unlike the fixed stars for many months. Such observations inspired generations of inquiry. Researchers increasingly believe that Greek astronomers were among the first to fully embrace the idea that mathematics could serve as a language for describing nature. Geometric relationships, proportions, circles, and spheres became tools for understanding celestial motion. While many of their specific models would later prove incomplete, the underlying belief that the universe could be understood through rational investigation became one of the most influential ideas in the history of science. The night sky itself encouraged this way of thinking. To the naked eye, the heavens appeared remarkably orderly. Stars moved together across the sky in predictable patterns. Seasonal constellations returned with impressive regularity. Even the more complicated movements of planets suggested an underlying structure waiting to be uncovered. For observers beneath dark Mediterranean skies, the universe seemed less like a collection of random events and more like an intricate system governed by principles that could be discovered through patience and reason. The emotional atmosphere surrounding these ancient investigations feels wonderfully calm when imagined today. There are no clocks measuring every moment, no artificial lights washing out the stars, and no distractions competing for attention. Instead, there is silence, cool evening air, and a vast celestial landscape inviting contemplation. The observer is not rushing toward an answer. Knowledge emerges gradually through observation, reflection, discussion, and the slow accumulation of understanding over time. Researchers often note that astronomy naturally encourages humility. The more ancient observers studied the heavens, the larger and more complex the universe appeared. Every answer seemed to reveal new questions. The stars inspired wonder, not because they were fully understood, but because they continually reminded humanity of how much remained unknown. This balance between knowledge and mystery became one of the defining characteristics of astronomical inquiry. Night after night, the cosmos continued its silent performance above the ancient world. Constellations drifted across the heavens. The moon followed its familiar cycle. Planets wandered among the stars with graceful unpredictability. Beneath this magnificent celestial display, Greek astronomers and philosophers continued searching for order within the universe, laying intellectual foundations that would influence generations of scholars long after their own observations had faded into history. As Greek astronomy matured, its greatest legacy may not have been any particular model of the universe, but the conviction that the heavens could be understood through observation, reasoning, and careful study. While many of their conclusions would eventually be revised by later generations, Greek thinkers helped establish an approach that would shape astronomy for centuries to come. The sky was not merely something to admire, it was something to investigate. Researchers studying the history of science often explain that this shift represented one of the most important developments in humanity's intellectual journey. Earlier civilizations had accumulated vast astronomical knowledge through patient observation, but Greek scholars increasingly sought explanations capable of connecting individual observations into coherent systems. They wanted to understand how the various motions of the heavens fit together within a larger cosmic order. Imagine standing on a quiet hillside overlooking the Mediterranean just before dawn. The sea below reflects faint starlight, while the horizon begins showing the first hints of approaching morning. Above, the stars remain brilliant against the darkness. Constellations drift slowly westward, while a bright planet shines near the eastern horizon. Everything appears calm, orderly, and beautifully predictable. For generations, observers watched scenes like this and found inspiration in the consistency of the heavens. The stars returned year after year. The moon followed its familiar cycle. The seasons unfolded according to rhythms that could be anticipated and understood. Beneath this celestial order, many Greek thinkers became convinced that nature itself operated according to principles that the human mind could discover. The emotional atmosphere surrounding these observations remains remarkably peaceful when imagined today. There are no telescopes, observatories, or advanced instruments, only a dark sky filled with stars, a quiet landscape beneath the night, and a small group of observers asking questions about the universe above them. Knowledge emerges slowly through patience, curiosity, and thoughtful reflection. Researchers often note that astronomy has always balanced certainty and mystery. The more ancient observers learned about the heavens, the more they realized how much remained unknown. Yet this did not discourage them. Instead, it inspired further observation and deeper inquiry. The sky remained both understandable and mysterious at the same time. And so, beneath the clear skies of the Mediterranean world, Greek astronomers and philosophers helped shape a new way of thinking about the cosmos. Through observation, mathematics, and reason, they sought order within the stars and laid foundations that would influence scientific thought for thousands of years. Above them, the heavens continued their silent movements through the night, while below, humanity took another quiet step toward understanding its place within the vast universe beyond. Act 5. Ancient China and the Celestial Empire. While philosophers in Greece searched for the underlying principles governing the cosmos, another remarkable astronomical tradition was flourishing thousands of kilometers to the east. Across the vast landscapes of ancient China, generations of observers devoted themselves to watching the heavens with extraordinary care, creating one of the longest continuous traditions of astronomical observation in human history. For centuries, imperial astronomers recorded celestial events with remarkable precision, preserving observations that would become invaluable not only to their own civilization, but also to future historians seeking to understand the ancient sky. Researchers studying the history of astronomy often explain that ancient Chinese astronomy developed with a unique emphasis on continuity and record-keeping. While many civilizations observed the heavens, Chinese astronomers created an exceptionally detailed tradition of documenting celestial phenomena across long periods of time. Eclipses, comets, planetary movements, unusual stars, and other events were carefully recorded generation after generation, producing an astronomical archive unlike any other in the ancient world. Imagine standing within an imperial observatory during a clear autumn night more than 2,000 years ago. The bustling activity of the day has faded, while the great cities of the empire rest beneath the darkness. Above, the heavens stretch endlessly from horizon to horizon. Thousands of stars shine across the sky, while the Milky Way forms a brilliant river of light arching overhead. The air is cool and still, and observers quietly watch the celestial world unfold above them. Researchers increasingly believe that astronomy occupied a particularly important role within Chinese society because it was closely connected to governance, calendars, and the broader understanding of harmony between heaven and earth. The sky was viewed as a realm whose patterns reflected the larger order of the universe. As a result, observing celestial events was not merely an academic pursuit. It was considered an important responsibility requiring accuracy, discipline, and careful attention. Night after night, observers tracked the motions of celestial bodies with remarkable dedication. They watched the moon progress through its phases. They followed the wandering paths of planets among the stars. They carefully documented eclipses and other unusual phenomena that appeared in the heavens. Over centuries, this commitment to observation created one of the most detailed astronomical records ever assembled in the ancient world. The emotional atmosphere surrounding these observations feels wonderfully peaceful when imagined today. There are no modern telescopes or electronic instruments. Instead, there are quiet towers beneath dark skies, patient observers studying the stars, and a profound sense of connection between the human world below and the celestial realm above. The heavens appear immense, orderly, and endlessly fascinating. Researchers often note that some of the most valuable historical records of comets, novae, and other transient celestial events come from ancient Chinese sources. Because observations were preserved so consistently across generations, modern historians and astronomers can sometimes compare ancient descriptions with contemporary scientific knowledge, creating remarkable connections between the distant past and the present. And so, beneath the vast skies of ancient China, illuminated by countless stars stretching across the darkness, another great chapter in humanity's astronomical story quietly unfolded. Through patience, discipline, and centuries of observation, Chinese astronomers contributed to one of the longest and most impressive traditions of sky-watching the world has ever known. As centuries passed, Chinese astronomers continued building one of the most extensive traditions of celestial observation in the ancient world. Their greatest strength was consistency. Rather than focusing only on occasional discoveries, they observed the heavens continuously across generations, creating records that preserved centuries of accumulated knowledge. This long continuity allowed patterns to emerge that would have been impossible to recognize within a single lifetime. Researchers studying ancient astronomy often explain that the Chinese approach placed great importance on careful documentation. Celestial events were recorded with remarkable attention to detail. Eclipses, comets, unusual stars, and planetary movements were noted and preserved, creating a historical record that remains valuable even today. In some cases, modern astronomers still consult ancient Chinese observations when studying celestial events that occurred thousands of years ago. Imagine a quiet winter night within the imperial capital. The city has fallen silent beneath the darkness while lanterns glow faintly along distant streets. Above, the stars shine brilliantly across the cold sky. The Milky Way stretches overhead, while bright planets stand out among the constellations. High above the sleeping city, observers carefully watch the heavens, recording subtle changes that most people would never notice. Researchers increasingly believe that this dedication to long-term observation allowed Chinese astronomers to become especially skilled at identifying unusual celestial phenomena. When a comet appeared, when a bright new star suddenly emerged, or when an eclipse darkened the sky, These events were carefully documented rather than forgotten. Over centuries, such records accumulated into one of humanity's most valuable astronomical archives. The emotional atmosphere surrounding these observations feels remarkably peaceful when imagined today. The night is quiet, the air is cool, the stars appear with extraordinary clarity above the rooftops of the empire. There is no urgency, only patience and attention directed toward the slow rhythms of the heavens. And so, beneath the vast skies of ancient China, generations of observers continued their work. Night after night, they watched the stars move across the darkness, preserving a record of the heavens that would endure long after the empires themselves had passed into history. As Chinese astronomy continued developing, observers gradually came to view the heavens as a vast system of recurring patterns unfolding across immense stretches of time. The stars, planets, and moon followed predictable paths, while occasional unusual events stood out against this stable, celestial background. Understanding these patterns required patience, careful attention, and a willingness to observe the sky year after year. Researchers studying the history of astronomy often note that ancient Chinese observers possessed an extraordinary awareness of change within continuity. Most nights, the heavens appeared familiar. Constellations returned with the seasons. The moon followed its regular cycle. Planets moved gradually among the stars. Yet within this predictable framework, rare events occasionally appeared. A bright comet, an unexpected eclipse, or a new star shining where none had been seen before. Imagine a calm spring night beneath the skies of ancient China. The countryside rests quietly beneath the darkness, while distant mountains form silhouettes against the horizon. Above, thousands of stars fill the heavens. The air is still, and the night seems timeless. An observer studies the sky carefully, aware that even subtle changes may carry significance. Researchers increasingly admire the discipline required for such observations. Astronomy, in the ancient world, was not built upon a few dramatic discoveries, but upon countless quiet nights spent watching the heavens. Most observations revealed nothing unusual, yet it was precisely this consistency that made important discoveries possible when rare events eventually appeared. The atmosphere surrounding these observations feels deeply peaceful when imagined today. Beneath dark skies, untouched by modern illumination, the stars shine with remarkable clarity. The Milky Way stretches across the heavens, while the familiar motions of celestial bodies continue exactly as they have for thousands of years. The observer stands quietly beneath this immense celestial display, participating in a tradition that connects generations across centuries. And so, night after night, Chinese astronomers continued watching the sky. Through patience and careful record-keeping, they preserved one of humanity's longest astronomical traditions, allowing future generations to inherit not only knowledge of the heavens, but also a profound appreciation for the value of sustained observation. As historians and astronomers continue studying the records preserved by ancient Chinese observers, they often express admiration for the remarkable continuity of this astronomical tradition. While many civilizations contributed important discoveries to humanity's understanding of the heavens, few maintained such extensive records across such long periods of time. Through wars, dynasties, political changes, and cultural transformations, generations of observers continued looking upward, preserving a celestial history that stretched across centuries. Researchers often explain that the greatest achievement of ancient Chinese astronomy was not a single observation or discovery, but the commitment to careful record-keeping itself. Because so many observations were preserved, modern scholars have been able to reconstruct ancient celestial events with surprising accuracy. Comets, eclipses, and unusual stars that appeared thousands of years ago can sometimes be identified and studied today, thanks to records created by observers who simply took the time to document what they saw. Imagine standing atop an observatory tower during the final hours before dawn. The city below remains quiet, while the eastern horizon begins showing the faintest hints of approaching morning. Above, the stars still dominate the sky. Constellations drift slowly westward, while a bright planet shines near the horizon. Everything feels calm, ordered, and beautifully unhurried. For generations, observers witnessed scenes like this. Night after night, they watched the heavens move through their familiar cycles. The moon changed shape. The planets wandered among the stars. The seasons brought different constellations across the sky. Through patient observation, they learned that understanding often emerges not from a single moment of insight, but from years of careful attention. The emotional atmosphere surrounding these ancient observations remains deeply peaceful when imagined today. Beneath dark skies free from modern illumination, the stars appear brilliant and countless. Cool night air drifts across the landscape, while silence settles over the world below. The observer stands quietly beneath the heavens, aware that the same celestial patterns have guided countless generations before. And so, beneath the vast skies of ancient China, one of humanity's longest astronomical traditions quietly flourished. Through discipline, patience, and centuries of observation, Chinese astronomers preserved an extraordinary record of the heavens, reminding us that some of the greatest contributions to knowledge come not from dramatic discoveries, but from the steady dedication to watching, recording, and learning from the universe above. OTT6, the Sky Watchers of the Ancient Americas. While astronomers in Mesopotamia, Egypt, Greece, and China carefully observed the heavens, remarkable traditions of sky watching were also flourishing across the Americas. Long before European contact, civilizations throughout the continent devoted extraordinary attention to the movements of celestial bodies, developing sophisticated calendars, observing seasonal cycles, and constructing monuments aligned with important astronomical events. Beneath some of the darkest skies on Earth, generations of observers watch the stars with patience and dedication, creating traditions that remain among the most fascinating achievements of the ancient world. Researchers studying the history of astronomy often explain that many societies in the Americas viewed the sky as an essential part of understanding time. The changing positions of the sun, moon, stars, and planets helped organize agricultural activities, ceremonial events, and the broader rhythm of community life. Careful observation of celestial cycles allowed people to anticipate seasonal changes and maintain calendars that reflected the natural patterns unfolding around them. Imagine standing quietly atop a stone platform somewhere in ancient Mesoamerica during a clear night. The surrounding forests rest beneath the darkness, while distant mountains form silhouettes against the horizon. Above, the heavens stretch endlessly across the sky. Thousands of stars shine with remarkable clarity, while the Milky Way arches overhead like a luminous pathway connecting the Earth below to the cosmos beyond. Researchers increasingly believe that astronomy became deeply integrated into architecture throughout parts of the ancient Americas. Certain structures appear carefully aligned with solstices, equinoxes, or other important celestial events. During specific times of the year, sunlight and shadow interacted with temples and monuments in ways that reflected an impressive understanding of astronomical cycles. These alignments remind us that the sky was not merely observed, it was incorporated into the very design of sacred and civic spaces. The atmosphere surrounding these ancient observations feels wonderfully peaceful when imagined today. The night air is cool. The forests remain quiet beneath the stars. There are no artificial lights washing out the heavens. Instead, the sky appears vast and brilliant, filled with constellations slowly moving across the darkness, while observers watch from stone plazas and elevated platforms. Night after night, generation after generation, the heavens continued their familiar rhythms above the ancient Americas. The moon changed shape. The stars marked the seasons. Bright planets wandered among the constellations. Beneath these magnificent skies, another chapter in humanity's long relationship with astronomy quietly unfolded, guided by curiosity, patience, and a deep appreciation for the patterns visible in the celestial world above. As astronomical traditions continued developing across the ancient Americas, observers became increasingly skilled at recognizing long-term celestial cycles. The sky provided a reliable framework for measuring time, helping communities organize agriculture, ceremonies, and important seasonal activities. By carefully observing the heavens over many generations, ancient astronomers discovered that celestial patterns repeated with remarkable consistency, creating a natural calendar visible to anyone patient enough to watch. Researchers studying ancient American civilizations often explain that one of the most impressive achievements of these cultures was their ability to track complex astronomical cycles without telescopes or modern instruments. Through observation alone, generations of sky watchers monitored the movements of the sun, moon, and planets, gradually building sophisticated systems for measuring time. Their knowledge emerged not from advanced technology, but from centuries of careful attention directed toward the heavens. Imagine a peaceful evening beneath a clear tropical sky. The warmth of the day has faded, while a gentle breeze moves through the surrounding landscape. Far below, villages rest quietly beneath the darkness. Above, the stars shine with extraordinary brilliance. Constellations slowly emerge across the heavens, while the Milky Way stretches overhead in a dazzling arc of light. The entire sky feels alive with motion, even though its movements unfold so gradually that only patient observers can fully appreciate them. Researchers increasingly believe that this deep familiarity with celestial cycles encouraged a unique relationship between people and the natural world. Rather than separating astronomy from daily life, many ancient societies integrated sky watching into their understanding of seasons, landscapes, and community rhythms. The heavens became a trusted guide whose patterns helped bring order to the passage of time. The emotional atmosphere surrounding these observations feels remarkably calm when imagined today. There are no artificial lights obscuring the stars and no distractions competing for attention. The observer stands quietly beneath a vast celestial canopy, while the familiar motions of the heavens continue overhead. The experience is not rushed. Knowledge emerges slowly through observation, reflection, and the patient accumulation of understanding. Night after night, the stars continued their journeys across the sky. The moon followed its familiar cycle, while planets wandered among the constellations. Beneath these magnificent heavens, generations of observers preserved a tradition of astronomical knowledge that connected communities to the rhythms of the cosmos and deepened humanity's enduring relationship with the night sky. As generations of observers continued studying the heavens across the ancient Americas, their understanding of celestial cycles grew steadily more refined. The sky revealed its patterns slowly, rewarding patience and careful observation. Certain stars appeared during particular seasons. The sun reached familiar positions along the horizon during important moments of the year. The moon followed its repeating cycle through the months. Over time, these recurring patterns became part of a sophisticated understanding of time itself. Researchers studying ancient astronomy often explain that one of the most remarkable aspects of these traditions was their long-term perspective. Many celestial cycles unfold gradually, requiring observations collected across decades or even generations. Knowledge accumulated slowly as parents taught children, teachers instructed students, and communities preserved observations through memory, tradition, and architectural design. The heavens became a living record that connected the past, present, and future. Imagine standing upon a stone terrace during the final hours before dawn. The surrounding landscape remains quiet beneath the darkness, while a faint breeze moves through nearby forests. Above, countless stars still fill the heavens. The Milky Way stretches across the sky, while bright planets shine among the constellations. In the distance, mountains rest beneath the night, their silhouettes barely visible against the horizon. Everything feels calm, timeless, and connected to rhythms far older than any single human life. Researchers increasingly admire the patience required for this kind of astronomy. There were no mechanical clocks, no computerized calculations, and no optical instruments revealing distant worlds. Instead, knowledge emerged through observation repeated over countless nights. The sky itself served as both textbook and laboratory. By paying close attention to celestial patterns, observers gradually learned to anticipate seasonal changes and understand the larger cycles shaping their world. The emotional atmosphere surrounding these observations feels especially peaceful when imagined today. Beneath dark skies, untouched by modern illumination, the stars appear almost overwhelming in their brilliance. The observer stands quietly within a vast natural landscape while the heavens move slowly overhead. There is no urgency, no distraction, only the steady rhythm of celestial motion unfolding across the night. Researchers often note that astronomy encourages a unique awareness of time. Looking at the stars reminds us that many of the universe's most important processes occur gradually. Seasons change slowly, planets move patiently across the sky. Constellations return year after year. Ancient observers understood this rhythm intuitively because they lived closely connected to the natural world around them. And so, beneath the magnificent skies of the ancient Americas, generations of sky watchers continued their work. Night after night, they observed the heavens with curiosity and dedication, preserving knowledge that reflected both practical wisdom and profound wonder. Above them, the stars continued their ancient journeys through the darkness, while below, humanity quietly deepened its understanding of the cosmos, one observation at a time. As historians and astronomers continue studying the astronomical traditions of the ancient Americas, They often emphasize how deeply these civilizations integrated the heavens into their understanding of the world. The stars were not viewed as distant objects separated from everyday life. Instead, celestial cycles helped organize agriculture, ceremonies, architecture, and the broader rhythm of society. Looking upward was both a practical activity and a source of reflection, connecting communities to patterns that unfolded far beyond the limits of a single lifetime. Researchers often explain that one of the greatest achievements of these ancient astronomers was their ability to recognize order within the vast complexity of the sky. Through patience and careful observation, they learned that celestial events followed predictable cycles. The sun returned to familiar positions throughout the year. The moon repeated its phases with remarkable consistency. Certain stars appeared and disappeared according to seasonal rhythms. The heavens became a reliable guide through the passage of time. Imagine standing upon a great stone platform during a quiet night many centuries ago. The forest below rests beneath the darkness, while distant mountains rise against the horizon. Above, the sky stretches endlessly in every direction. Thousands of stars shine with extraordinary brilliance, while the Milky Way forms a luminous river across the heavens. The observer stands in silence, surrounded by a universe that feels both immense and reassuringly ordered. The emotional atmosphere surrounding these ancient observations remains deeply peaceful when imagined today. There are no bright cities illuminating the horizon, and no artificial sounds disturbing the stillness of the night. The stars dominate the sky completely. Cool air moves gently through the landscape, while the familiar motions of celestial bodies continue overhead exactly as they have for countless generations. Researchers increasingly note that astronomy has always been about more than knowledge alone. Across cultures and continents, the night sky inspired a sense of connection to something larger than ordinary daily life. Ancient observers may have differed in language, beliefs, and traditions, yet they shared a common experience, standing beneath the stars and wondering about the universe above them. And so, throughout the ancient Americas, generations of sky watchers preserved a rich astronomical tradition built upon patience, observation, and curiosity. Their monuments, calendars, and observations remind us that humanity's fascination with the heavens is truly universal. Beneath the same stars that shine above us today, they watched the cosmos unfold and discovered patterns that connected their lives to the vast rhythms of the universe itself. As dawn slowly approached and the stars gradually faded from the sky, the work of observation would pause for another day. Yet the heavens would return again the following night, just as they always had. The cycles continued, the stars returned, and humanity's quiet conversation with the cosmos carried on beneath the endless sky. Exit 7, beneath the darkest skies on Earth. As we journey through the history of ancient astronomy, a remarkable realization begins to emerge. Although civilizations were separated by oceans, mountains, deserts, and vast distances, many of them shared the same experience when they looked upward at night. Whether standing beside the Nile, overlooking the Mediterranean, watching from a Mesopotamian ziggurat, observing from an imperial Chinese tower, or studying the heavens from a stone platform in the Americas, ancient observers encountered a sky far different from the one most people see today. Researchers studying historical astronomy often explain that one of the greatest differences between the ancient and modern worlds is not the sky itself, but our ability to see it. For most of human history, nights were genuinely dark. There were no electric lights illuminating the horizon, no highways glowing in the distance, and no vast urban areas washing out the stars. When darkness arrived, it arrived completely, revealing a celestial panorama of astonishing beauty. Imagine stepping outside on a clear night thousands of years ago. The landscape around you disappears into shadow while the heavens come alive overhead. At first, a few bright stars appear, then dozens, then hundreds. Soon, the entire sky fills with light. The Milky Way stretches across the darkness like a glowing river, so bright that it casts a faint luminosity across the landscape below. Constellations emerge with extraordinary clarity, while planets shine like brilliant lanterns suspended among the stars. Researchers increasingly believe that this experience may have profoundly influenced the development of ancient astronomy. When the heavens appear so vivid and overwhelming, they naturally attract attention. The sky becomes impossible to ignore. Patterns become easier to recognize. Seasonal changes become more obvious. The movements of planets stand out more clearly against the background of stars. Living beneath dark skies encouraged familiarity with the celestial world in a way that is difficult for many modern observers to imagine. The emotional atmosphere surrounding such nights feels wonderfully peaceful. There is no artificial brightness competing with the stars, no screens drawing attention away from the heavens, only cool air, silence, and an immense celestial display stretching from horizon to horizon. The universe feels both vast and intimate at the same time. Researchers often note that experiences of awe may encourage reflection and calm by shifting attention away from everyday concerns towards something larger and more enduring. Ancient people likely experienced this feeling regularly. Night after night, they watched the same stars cross the heavens. They witnessed meteor showers, eclipses, bright planets, and countless other celestial events beneath skies of extraordinary clarity. And beneath those magnificent ancient nights, illuminated by thousands of stars and the luminous band of the Milky Way, humanity's fascination with the cosmos continued growing. The heavens were not hidden behind artificial light. They were present in all their beauty, inviting anyone willing to look upward into the endless darkness above. As the centuries passed and astronomical knowledge spread across civilizations, one thing remained constant. Every discovery began with observation. Long before telescopes revealed distant galaxies, and centuries before scientists understood the true scale of the universe, ancient observers relied entirely on their own eyes. Night after night, they stood beneath dark skies and watched the heavens with remarkable patience, gradually learning to recognize patterns hidden within the apparent complexity of the stars. Researchers studying the history of astronomy often explain that the naked-eye sky is far richer than many modern people realize. Under truly dark conditions, thousands of stars become visible. The Milky Way appears as a vast, luminous band stretching across the heavens. Bright planets can be distinguished from ordinary stars by their steady light and slow movement. Even subtle features of the night sky become noticeable when artificial illumination is absent and observation becomes a regular part of daily life. Imagine a calm summer night somewhere in the ancient world. The day's activities have ended, and the landscape rests quietly beneath the darkness. Mountains form distant silhouettes against the horizon, while rivers, deserts, forests and coastlines fade into shadow. Above, however, the heavens seem almost impossibly alive. Countless stars fill the sky from one horizon to the other. The Milky Way arches overhead like a celestial pathway, while familiar constellations slowly drift westward as the Earth turns beneath them. Researchers increasingly believe that repeated exposure to such skies helped ancient observers develop extraordinary familiarity with celestial movements. When people spend years watching the stars, subtle changes become easier to notice. A planet appearing in a new position, an unusual bright object emerging near a constellation, or the arrival of seasonal stars would stand out much more clearly to someone who knew the sky intimately. The emotional atmosphere surrounding these observations feels deeply peaceful when imagined today. There are no clocks demanding attention, no glowing screens competing for focus, and no endless stream of information interrupting the experience. Instead, there is silence, darkness, cool night air, and the slow movement of the heavens above. Time itself seems to unfold differently beneath such conditions, encouraging patience and reflection rather than urgency. Researchers often note that astronomy teaches a unique perspective on scale. Ancient observers may not have known the true distances separating the stars, yet they still understood that the heavens represented something vast beyond ordinary human experience. Looking upward revealed a world that seemed eternal compared to the brevity of individual lives. The stars returned year after year, generation after generation, creating a sense of continuity that connected people across centuries. And so, beneath the darkest skies on Earth, humanity continued learning from the heavens. Every civilization added its own observations, stories, and discoveries to a growing tradition of sky watching. Above them, the stars followed their ancient paths through the darkness, while below, observers quietly expanded humanity's understanding of the cosmos one clear night at a time. As ancient observers spent more time studying the heavens, many began noticing something fascinating. Although the stars appeared fixed in relation to one another, not every object in the sky behaved the same way. Most constellations maintained familiar shapes throughout the seasons, moving together across the heavens with remarkable consistency. Yet a handful of bright lights wandered slowly among them, following paths that seemed different from those of the surrounding stars. Researchers studying the history of astronomy often explain that these wandering objects captured the attention of nearly every major astronomical tradition in the ancient world. Today we know them as planets, but to ancient observers they were mysterious lights whose movements seemed to defy the orderly patterns visible elsewhere in the sky. Their slow journeys inspired careful observation and raised questions that would occupy astronomers for centuries. Imagine a quiet autumn night beneath one of the dark skies of the ancient world. The landscape below has fallen silent while the stars shine brilliantly overhead. A familiar constellation rises above the eastern horizon, just as it has countless times before. Yet nearby, a particularly bright object appears in a position where it was not seen a few months earlier. Night after night, it slowly changes location, drifting among the fixed stars while maintaining its steady glow. Such observations encourage people to watch the heavens even more carefully. Researchers increasingly believe that ancient astronomy developed not only because the sky was beautiful, but because it was dynamic. The heavens were constantly changing in subtle ways. The moon altered its appearance throughout the month. Certain stars appeared during specific seasons. Planets wandered across the sky. Occasionally, comets emerged unexpectedly, and meteor showers briefly illuminated the darkness. Every clear night offered the possibility of seeing something familiar in a slightly new way. The emotional atmosphere surrounding these observations feels especially calming when imagined today. Beneath a dark sky untouched by artificial illumination, the stars seem closer and more vivid than most modern observers ever experience. The Milky Way stretches across the heavens while constellations slowly rotate through the night. The observer stands quietly beneath this immense celestial display, aware that the universe is both orderly and alive with motion. Researchers often note that astronomy teaches patience because celestial change occurs gradually. A single evening reveals only a small portion of a larger pattern. Understanding emerges through repeated observation. Ancient astronomers accepted this rhythm naturally. They returned to the same skies season after season, allowing knowledge to accumulate slowly over years and generations rather than seeking immediate answers. This long perspective may be one reason the night sky inspired such enduring fascination. Looking upward encouraged people to think beyond the concerns of a single day or even a single lifetime. The stars connected generations. The same constellations observed by grandparents would later be observed by grandchildren. The heavens provided a sense of continuity stretching across centuries. And so, beneath the darkest skies on Earth, humanity continued its quiet conversation with the cosmos. Observers watched planets wander among the stars, tracked the changing appearance of the moon, and learned to recognize patterns unfolding across vast stretches of time. Above them, the universe continued its silent movements through the darkness, inviting curiosity, patience, and wonder from all who paused to look upward. As we look back across the many civilizations that studied the heavens, a remarkable pattern becomes visible. The people of Mesopotamia, Egypt, Greece, China, and the ancient Americas differed in language, culture, geography, and belief. Yet all were drawn toward the same sky. They observed the same moon, the same planets, the same constellations, and the same river of stars stretching across the darkness. Although separated by vast distances, they shared a common experience that connected humanity across continents and centuries. Researchers studying the history of astronomy often explain that one of the most extraordinary aspects of ancient sky watching is its universality. Nearly every civilization developed some form of astronomical tradition because the heavens were impossible to ignore. The stars provided calendars, guided travelers, marked seasons, inspired stories, and encouraged reflection. Looking upward was one of the few experiences shared by virtually all human societies throughout history. Imagine standing beneath a perfectly dark sky somewhere in the ancient world. There are no borders visible from where you stand, no empires, no kingdoms, no maps, only the vast celestial dome stretching overhead. The Milky Way shines brightly across the heavens, while countless stars fill the darkness from horizon to horizon. The universe appears immense, mysterious, and beautiful beyond words. Researchers increasingly believe that experiences like this helped shape humanity's earliest understanding of its place within nature. Ancient observers may not have known about galaxies, black holes, or the true scale of the cosmos, yet they recognized something profound. The universe was larger than any city, kingdom, or generation. The stars existed before them and would continue shining long after they were gone. This awareness encouraged both humility and wonder. The emotional atmosphere surrounding these ancient observations remains deeply peaceful when imagined today. Cool night air drifts across the landscape while silence settles over the world below. The stars move slowly across the heavens in patterns so gradual that they seem eternal. There is no rush, no urgency, only the quiet presence of the cosmos unfolding exactly as it has for countless generations. Researchers often note that astronomy is unique among the sciences because it naturally invites reflection. Looking at the stars encourages us to think beyond immediate concerns and consider larger questions about time, existence, and our connection to the universe. Ancient observers experienced this feeling beneath dark skies thousands of years ago, and modern observers can still experience it today whenever they step away from artificial light and look upward. And so, beneath the darkest skies on Earth, humanity's first great astronomical traditions quietly flourished. Through patience, curiosity, and generations of careful observation, people learned to recognize patterns in the heavens and began the long journey toward understanding the cosmos. The stars continued their silent movements through the night, inspiring wonder in every civilization that paused to watch them. As our gentle tour through ancient astronomy approaches its final chapter, the heavens remain exactly where they have always been, above mountains and deserts, above rivers and oceans, above cities and forests, shining patiently through the darkness while inviting each new generation to look upward and wonder. Act 8, looking up at the same stars. As our gentle journey through the world of ancient astronomy slowly comes to an end, perhaps the most remarkable realization is not how different ancient people were from us, but how similar. Across thousands of years of history, countless civilizations looked upward into the night and experienced many of the same emotions that people still feel today: wonder, curiosity, peace, humility. A quiet awareness that beyond the concerns of daily life exists something vast, beautiful, and enduring. Researchers studying the history of astronomy often explain that the night sky may be one of humanity's oldest shared experiences. Long before written languages connected distant societies, the stars already did. The same constellations observed above Mesopotamia appeared above Egypt. The same planets wandered through the skies of Greece, China, and the ancient Americas. Although cultures developed different explanations and traditions, they all observed the same celestial world unfolding above them. Imagine standing outside on a clear night thousands of years ago. The landscape around you fades into darkness while the heavens gradually fill with light. The Milky Way stretches across the sky like a luminous river. Bright planets shine among the stars. Familiar constellations rise above the horizon, while the moon casts a gentle glow across the sleeping world below. There is no artificial light, no distant traffic, and no electronic distractions. Only silence, cool night air, and the endless beauty of the cosmos. For ancient observers, the sky was both practical and mysterious. It helped measure time, it guided travelers, it marked the changing seasons. Yet it also inspired questions that had no simple answers. What are the stars? Why do the planets move? How large is the universe? What lies beyond the visible heavens? Researchers often note that astronomy occupies a special place within human history because it combines observation with imagination. Every civilization that studied the sky learned practical lessons from celestial patterns, but they also encountered mysteries that encouraged reflection. Looking upward naturally invites people to think beyond their immediate surroundings and consider larger questions about existence, time, and the universe itself. As we have traveled through Mesopotamia, Egypt, Greece, China, and the ancient Americas, a common thread has appeared again and again. Knowledge emerged through patience. Ancient astronomers did not discover the heavens in a single moment. They learned gradually through observation repeated across years, decades, and generations. The stars revealed their patterns slowly, rewarding those willing to watch carefully and wait. There is something deeply calming about this idea. Modern life often encourages speed. Information arrives instantly. Answers appear within seconds. Attention is constantly divided among countless distractions. Ancient astronomy followed a very different rhythm. Understanding required patience. The heavens could not be rushed. The stars moved according to their own timetable, inviting observers to slow down and adapt themselves to the pace of the universe. Researchers increasingly believe that experiences of awe may help quiet habitual patterns of thought by directing attention towards something larger than ourselves. Looking at the night sky naturally encourages this perspective. Beneath the stars, many everyday concerns seem smaller. Time feels broader. The world appears more connected. The universe reminds us that we are part of a story far older and far larger than any individual life. Perhaps that is why astronomy continues to fascinate humanity after thousands of years. The instruments have changed, the knowledge has expanded, the questions have evolved. Yet the experience itself remains familiar. A person stands beneath the stars. The sky stretches endlessly overhead, and wonder quietly follows. Tonight, we have walked beside ancient observers across continents and centuries. We stood atop Mesopotamian ziggurats along the banks of the Nile, beside Mediterranean hillsides, within Chinese observatories, and upon stone platforms beneath the skies of the ancient Americas. Together, we witnessed how generations of people looked upward and gradually transformed curiosity into knowledge. Yet despite everything humanity has learned since those ancient nights, the stars still possess the same quiet beauty they always have. The constellations continue rising above the horizon. The planets continue their journeys through the heavens. The moon continues its familiar cycle. The Milky Way continues stretching across the darkness. And somewhere, beneath a clear night sky untouched by artificial light, the universe still appears, much as it did to the first people who ever stopped, looked upward, and wondered what lay beyond. So now, as the night grows deeper and the stars continue their silent movements across the heavens, allow your thoughts to slow beside them. Let the concerns of the day drift quietly into the background. Imagine the cool air of an ancient night, the peaceful stillness of a world illuminated only by starlight, and the endless sky stretching above distant mountains, rivers, deserts, forests, and oceans. The ancient astronomers have long since faded into history. The civilizations they built have risen and fallen, yet the stars remain, patient, silent, timeless, still shining above the world. And as they continue their eternal journey through the darkness, may their quiet light carry you gently toward rest beneath the same sky that has inspired wonder in human hearts for thousands of years.